a cursory glance at social media was the fact that Tate Martell, I said that he needed a big game in the final scrimmage after the second scrimmage not really being up to par, and he took a big step forward. And the thing was, they let him work in the shotgun, and that's what we've been saying. If he has to be under center, he can't play here, period. I mean, he just can't. He's not built like that. But when you put him under shot or in the shotgun, then, some things start to work. You had a 80-yard touchdown on an RPO against the second team defense to KJ Osborne, arguably number one receiver, definitely the number one healthy wide receiver, because Jeff Thomas and Brian Hightower both had minor knee surgeries. We talked about that last week, or procedures, I should say. So KJ Osborne was the number one receiver who was healthy, but he was working in the slot. And this is a thing that I think that we're going to see from Dan Enos, where he's going to interchange the receiver. So you're not just going to be an X, a Y, or a Z, or slot, whatever. You have to know multiple positions, and that happened on that RPO play. So, it was against the backups. I mean, you have a scholarship player who's not going to play base defense, who, was in the secondary. He got shook, and then he outran some fast guys. Nigel Bethel, who was like a very, very fast kid, a sprinter in high school, one of the fastest kids in Dade County when he was coming out of Miami Northwestern. And KJ Osborne got the angle, or he outran the angle and scored from 80. So that was good. And that was, the pass was on time by Martell. He showed, the ability to hit some throws, to move around. And like I said, his game is outside of the pockets. That sandlot football. When he is able to move around, he plays the style of Johnny football, Johnny Manziel. I'm not going to say he's as good as, because if he was, everybody would see that. Everybody would know that. But that same kind of thing. Somebody comes at him, he goes, he spins, he's running around, extending a play, and you can look back all the way to his high school highlights at Bishop Gorman. When he is in rhythm and on time in the pocket, okay, you're going to get your completions, you're going to move the chains. When the play breaks down and Tate Martell has to improvise, that's when you hold your breath. In a good way, because you think, oh my God, this could be a touchdown. He can run, he can throw, he's a dynamic player in that kind of a way. And, earlier in the spring, one time I spoke about the fact that Dan Enos said that he wants to tear the quarter, or break the quarterbacks down and rebuild them from the studs. So you're going to strip away all of their stuff, what they think, or what their perception or their recruiting ranking, or and you're really just going to go to the foundation and build them from the ground up. And that is what happened, like when we saw in the second scrimmage, like Perry and Williams were more, easily adaptable to the, playing from under center, I should say. And Tate Martell really struggled. And everybody's going to have things that they struggle with. But when you open up the playbook a little bit, then, you can see some of the things that make him potentially a dynamic player and back into the battle for quarterback one. Because like I said, last time we spoke, Tate Martell was off the radar. And I needed a big showing on last week, Saturday, and we got that. So that's a big takeaway. The defensive line is going to be really good. That's another takeaway. I mean, just across the board. Nessa Silvera, Gregory Rousseau, Jonathan Garvin. It's kind of crazy that we're not talking more about John Garvin, because we almost take his greatness for granted at this point. The linebackers, you move Patrick Joyner, who was a linebacker in air quotations in high school, and in Dade County, your best players, you're going to put a defensive end, basically. I mean, your tweeners, your defensive linemen, linebackers, you're going to put them in defensive end and hopefully have them get up the field. And that's what he did in high school, even though he was labeled a linebacker coming out. So he played D end. But, if you're looking at the rotation, Patrick Joyner's probably not going to play much at defensive end. But we need linebackers. And he actually had a couple tackles for loss. He flashed some instincts and potential there. And that makes me happy, because, if you have him and then you bring in Avery Huff, Sam Brooks, he was one of those edge rusher kind of guys at a linebacker for Miami Northwestern. I want to see him transition to actually, stand-up linebacker. But, you move Patrick Joyner back to the second level. And, I'm not going to put him as like the best backup right now, but he has the best skill set of the backups who are currently on campus. And to see that and see him take to that position like a fish to water. I mean, they moved him, and boom, he was making plays, within the week that he changed. And bear in mind, there's only 3 practices a week. So he had like 2 practices at linebacker, and then he's making plays in the spring game in the scheme of our defense. Yo, I love that. So that was another big takeaway. Running backs are, it's DJ Dallas and Cam Harris. Cam Harris, I'm not ready to put him at running back 1, but it's getting closer, I think. I mean, he's just really taking a huge leap forward. And all the quarterbacks, Martell and Williams and Perry, really had strong showings, I think. So, yeah, it kind of evened things out. But, I mean, those are just some of the Cliff's notes off the top of my head. But I think that we did see a lot of things that we needed to see. The offensive line apparently was pretty good. I want to see this Zion Nelson kid in person. Our guy, Justin DeTavio, just wrote a piece about how a 2-star recruit could be, as a true freshman, end up the starting left tackle at Miami. And that would be the case if it were Zion Nelson, because he was a 2-star with one offer, like a couple offers. He was committed to Appalachian State. And then Miami came in late. And this kid is 6'5", 240. He's up to 271 right now. And he's an early enrollee. So you're talking 30 pounds in, 4.5, 5 months. I'm not going to think that he's going to get up to 300 something. But if he could be at, if he's at 271 now, if he's at 280, 285 by the fall, I mean, that gives him enough, I think, of a foundation of a base of strength and size to compete out there. And so, Justin DeTavio looked at that. And that's a thing where, I would prefer it if Miami had a ready-made 5-star, returning All-American left tackle. Point of fact is we don't. And if Zion Nelson is proving himself to be the best option there, then I was on another podcast a couple days ago this week, and one of the other panelists threw out the name Jason Fox, former tackle for Miami, who's from Texas originally, and he came in and he was about 6'5", 6'6", 270, and he had a nice career. Ended up playing in the NFL for like a decade almost. And I countered that with also Eric Winston, who came into Miami as a 5-star tight end, but he was like, the 6th lineman for his Texas high school football team. And then he eventually moved over to left tackle, played in the league forever, might still be in the league. I think he was the Players Association president, Eric Winston. But if we can get Zion Nelson to approximate either, or he could, between just Jason Fox or Eric Winston, if we can get that out of him, that would be such a huge win. And especially because, we don't have tackles. And if we found one and he ends up, bucking the trend and being the very lowly recruited guy who is a standout, then I'll take it. But yeah, those are just some of the things that were the reaction, I think, from this spring game. And, the biggest thing at the end was that there were no additional injuries. Everybody made it out healthy. And that's always a good thing from spring, or the last spring game, at least, because there were injuries before that.